Love it. Love that music, Paul. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Whissel Wednesdays. In studio, as we mentioned earlier, we got Mike Quichocho with Zing Solar. Did I pronounce it better that time?
That was awesome.
All right.
That's perfect.
So, Mike, there's so much stuff going on with solar, and I wanted to bring you in and kind of ask a few questions. We have a few real estate professionals in here, Travis Selling again with Team Home Loans and AJ Powers with Whissel Realty. But we wanted to kind of pick your brain and ask you, what's going on with solar? I mean, it's just taken off the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, man. There's a big boom on solar. Probably especially because SDG&E's prices are just on the rise. 24% last year alone. We're not really sure what they're going to do this year. We just know it, in fact, is going to go up, and it's probably going to be significant. In addition to that, it looks like they're starting to attack the people in the lower tiers. You know, a lot of people don't know, but SDG&E charges you on a tiered type of billing system. So
the less you use, you're actually getting charged a little bit more per kilowatt hour, that type of thing?
Well, it's actually the other way around. The more you use, it's the way of SDG&E penalizing you for using more electricity than you otherwise may be needing to. In the higher tiers, you're getting paid twice as much as what you're paying in the lower tiers. But quite honestly, the lower tier allowances aren't really that much. You know, typically, the only people that stay in the lower tiers are one or two, people in the household type thing.
Right.
Senior citizens that don't require a whole lot of electronics, so to say. Those are typically the only people in the lower tiers. You know, you get into a family of four, certainly anything larger than a family of four, you're definitely in tier threes and a lot of times in tier four.
All right. Well, so the reason people are going to solar, I know, is the savings factor, right? So what do you see as your average client, what are they typically paying at SDG&E bill? What's
a typical bill is anywhere from $150 to a $400 bill.
Right, which is, I think most of us would agree in there. AJ, that's right. Somewhere definitely most of us fall in that $150 to $400. So let's just take $300 as a number.
Okay.
If you're paying $300 a month and your listener and your client out there paying $300 a month, is it time to look at solar, or is it even $150? It might make sense.
Yeah, even if you're paying $80 or more a month on the average, it's time to go solar.
Okay, and you mentioned you have a no-cost program, and we talked about that in between the break. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a program. It's called the Power Purchase Agreement. Under this program, there's certainly some qualifiers, although it's easy to qualify. In this program, certainly, where a company like us puts the solar panels on top of the roof, you simply buy the electricity from the rooftop instead of SDG&E. With SDG&E, what you're really paying for is infrastructure. You're paying for the distribution of electricity. A lot of their electricity being shipped in from, out of state, and you're paying for the maintenance of those power plants, the production of that electricity, and certainly the employee benefits.
Sure.
If you're buying the electricity right from your rooftop, you eliminate all that infrastructure.
Okay, so you're cutting out a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the middle piece, middle person in there, so we understand that. So is it more like a lease type of option then?
There is lease programs out there. The PPA isn't a lease. It's not even labeled a lease. And there's a lot of differences between the PPA and the lease. One of the largest is the lease program. It shows up on your credit report. So if you lease a system, it's just like leasing a car. If you go to apply for a car loan or a home loan or any other kind of loan in the near future, it'll show up as an actual purchase. Whereas this power purchase agreement, it doesn't show up. So it doesn't hurt your debt-to-income ratio.
Nice.
The other thing about it,
because we've seen that affect our clients, right, AJ and Travis?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, people have had to, they can't even buy the house until they get approved. We had one couple.
I had a deal where they were buying a house and they got approved for a $500,000 loan, but they couldn't get approved to take over the solar that was already on.
We had to talk to some supervisors within the lease department to even get them.
Crazy.
We got a $500,000 loan approved, but we couldn't get them approved to take over the lease. So that's crazy. But this power purchase, that's interesting. So is it just unique to Zing, or is it something that's out there?
No, there's a few companies, not a lot, that can participate in this program. Unfortunately, most of the programs you see out there are in fact lease, because this power purchase agreement is a relatively new program. So a lot of the solar you see on the rooftops, chances are they're a lease. And it's certainly not the best way to get solar.
Right, and that's kind of what we've talked about here on the studio lease is something that we were concerned about as real estate agent, real estate lenders. So the power purchase agreement sounds like a great option. So you guys put the equipment on top of the roof there,
correct,
and then basically sell it down to the owner below. And what are they saying on average? I mean, what?
We're seeing an average. If it's $300 bill, you're going to be pretty close to a 50% savings.
Wow. Cha-ching. Nice job on that, Travis. Paul even a little smile, the engineer there in the box. So that was a good job.
Yeah,
so.
That's awesome when there's absolutely no money invested. In the transaction, we're not asking you for any money anywhere in there. Not now or ever. It doesn't cost you anything now or ever. You're simply buying the electricity from the rooftop.
Now, is that a fixed cost, or is that going to be something to adjust based on supply and demand on what happens in the future? What's your take on that? Do you know what I mean by that? Well, since rates on SDG&E are going up, right? A concern a consumer is going to have is, hey, I'm happy to get solar, but I don't want to get something here, save money, and then find out you guys start to, crank it back up.
Well, there's a couple different programs. Certainly, we have a program that you can start out at a certain rate, and there's an escalator.
Okay.
But the escalator is guaranteed in writing. I think that's one of the best things about this in particular program. With SDG&E, you don't know what the rates are going to go up this year alone, or the year after, or any time after. With the power purchase agreement, you know exactly what the percentage of increase is year after year after year. And that's
so it's easier to budget and fix that in there.
Correct.
All right, that's
Correct.
great.
And you can see, moving forward, you can see 10 years from now what your electricity is going to cost. There's also a program that we could probably get you into where it's fixed for a long, long time, 25 years, where this is your rate, and for the next 25 years, it's not going to change. Just depends on the needs of the customer. It depends on what works the best for the customer. Certainly, it's got to be a good deal for everybody. Otherwise, it's not a good deal.
Right.
Know?
Yeah, Mike, I do have a question for you.
Sir.
Let's just say I have a client that does this PPA, and they decide they want to sell their home. So
Correct.
They don't own the solar, they haven't leased it. What happens with that?
It simply transfers, even if you've got a homeowner that wants to rent out their home. There's a simple transfer document in our agreement. It's a one-page document. It simply transfers to either the next tenant or the next homeowner. I just had one recently within the last couple of weeks. A guy got the seller with me about 3 months ago, going through a divorce with his wife, so house went up on the market. His real estate agent contacted me and said, Mike, what do I got to do? I sent him the document. He called me back a couple of days later, and he said, man, this is probably the easiest transfer I've ever seen in reference to solar.
So is there a lien involved with the actual equipment?
What a great question. No lien. There's no lien. Our paperwork is in specific, says there's no lien on the property, as opposed to a lease. A lease, there is a lien on the property.
Right, and that's when it becomes tricky. And
Correct.
The solar companies can take a while, and
Correct.
It can be a delay.
Right, and you've seen that happen,
Sure.
right, AJ? So in this case, it sounds like a simple transfer, just like it's a simple transfer at SDG&E. Like when you have a new tenant come in or you sell, you just make a few calls, you fill out a quick paperwork, they make sure you get the right billing information, and you move on. So does that sound?
Yeah, and that's just one of the various options. Another option is it can be purchased out at that time at a depreciated value. Let's say solar's installed today. This transaction for the sale takes place 10 years from now. The solar obviously is going to be worth less because it's 10 years old. There's the option to buy the program out and just include it in the sale of the house. That's probably what I would do. But it's whatever works best for that customer.
Client, that particular client. Everybody's situation is a little bit different.
And another great option is if you decide that you're going to sell this house and you're going to go buy the house down the road or across the country, but you want to take your solar system with you, we'll take it down, ship it out. If it's here in San Diego, LA, Riverside County, or even Orange County, we'll go put it up at your next house.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, Travis. Good job on that.
We'll send it across the country and hire an authorized contractor out there.
So anywhere in Southern California, Mike Q and Zing Solar can take care of you guys. Even if you move, you guys can pick up that stuff and move it. So that's a nice added advantage.
Sure.
So if our listeners want to get a hold of you, I know they can always text us at the line. You can blow up Kyle's text line here, and it's 619-663-7355. But what's another number they can use to get a hold of you, Mike?
619-634-3167.
All right. Say it one more time.
619-634-3167.
Awesome. What else do we want to cover on solar, guys? I mean, there's so many questions, but the exciting thing is you're getting the energy cheap, you're getting it fixed, you're taking control, you're setting that budget. It's kind of like taking home ownership, AJ. That when you become a homeowner, you're taking pride in the house. You're setting a budget. And as I tell many of our prospective homeowners and new homeowners, your payment's fixed for 30 years.
Right.
You know what you're going to set. That's kind of what solar's going to now. And that's just a great option. So any homeowners you're out there listening, that look at solar, check out Zing and Mike Quichocho. I think I'm pronouncing the best I can, Mike Q, with Zing. And we'll look at a couple options for that. So we're getting ready to go to break. But anything else to add on that, AJ?
I just think it's a great option. It's really great for resale if you've got an area that tends to be higher in electricity, Santee, somewhere it gets hot. You've got a pool, whatever it might be. I mean, these are big things. People are going green. They want to save as much money as they can on electricity and power, whatever they can to do to lower that bill. It's huge. So if you've got solar on a home, you're going to have a huge advantage over your neighbor who doesn't.
Right.
The sun is always shining in San Diego.
That was appropriate.
That is appropriate. And the sun is always shining. We don't have to worry about being as cold. However, it's been a little bit cooler the last few weeks than normal. But it's a beautiful place, and I agree with you. Solar's the way to go. Mike Quichocho at Zing Solar is the place to be. Again, you're listening to Whissel Wednesdays on 1170 AM KCBQ. Coming up here on a break, but right after the break, you'll be listening to our real estate professional here in studio, AJ Powers with the Whissel Realty team, telling us about what's going on for the new year here in 2015. We'll be right back.